Charlie, welcome. How are you doing today?
Hi, morning. I'm good. How are you doing?
Yes, very well, thanks. Very, very well. Thank you so much for being on. I came across you on LinkedIn and I thought you'll be an excellent person to speak with about SEO, especially with your years of experience and also the training that you carry out. So I want to cover a number of topics, well, five topics essentially. I want to get into your background in SEO. Want to get your take on insights, gathering insights from tools, especially as you're someone who's worked at Screaming Frog before. By the way, one of my favorite SEO tools. So I want to get your thoughts around gathering insights. We'll cover SEO training, AI generated content, of course, and we'll end with SEO in 2023. So if that all sounds good with you, I can just go ahead and start from right at the start. I like to ask my SEO guests how they became an SEO professional. So with that said, how did you become an SEO professional?
It's a good question. It's not a very a clever story, to be honest with you. Basically fell into it, which I think a lot of SEOs do.
Yep. Yep.
I used to work in retail quite a few years ago, and essentially I worked in record shops, and they all kind of went out of business. And I was looking for a job, and just before I finished working at the record shops, before the business went under, I applied for a job to join their web team to start working on their website, because even then, and this was 2008, I sort of saw then that lots of our customers were moving to buying online. And I thought, well, I like selling records. This is something I'm passionate about. But if I could combine it with a way of what I think the future is, where I can see the market moving, that would be really cool. So when I didn't get that job, and then the business went under several months later. And by the time it all finished up, and I was a store manager at that point, and we closed up the store and everything like that. It was time to look for a new job. And I decided I didn't want to work in retail anymore. I never meant to work in retail, just happened to be doing it and kept on getting promoted for some reason. So I stuck around. But with that whole website thing was sticking in my mind, that, the idea of, selling things online was where it was at. And I was like, okay. And I was lucky enough that local to where I live in just outside Oxford. Local to where I live is a travel company who are based online, selling travel tickets online, and they were hiring for basically like an SEO assistant. I had no idea what that meant, so I looked it up, and I was like, okay, doing stuff with a website to try and make it sell more online, that kind of fits in with this idea. So I will apply for that. Managed to somehow blag the interview. It was an entry level position, but they were very kind and took a chance on me, and I started doing that, and that's how I got a start in the industry, basically.
Awesome, awesome. I love your voice, by the way. You sound like when you mentioned you have that music background. I was like, okay, you've got that radio professional voice. I love it.
Oh, thank you. Well, I mean, first of all, it's the microphone. It's nothing to do with it. It's just having a quality microphone. It's just doing that. I got the microphone, this one particular one, at the beginning of the COVID lockdowns, and when all my meetings moved online, because I realized that if I had a good microphone, because at that point nobody had microphones for Zoom meetings, and you couldn't hear anyone. So I figured that if I had a microphone, then everyone would be able to hear me, and if they can hear me, then I might get my way more. Just not necessarily because I'm right, just because they can hear me more clearly than anyone else. But that's very kind of you say. I did used to work in radio many years ago, before working in retail. I had a very bad failed career working in radio.
But the voice, though, kept the voice up, and it's serving you very, very well. If I say so myself.
Oh, cheers, man. Thank you.
So you got into SEO, and I see that you specialize in on page and also content related stuff. So technical and also content. Why I'm curious as to why those two, as opposed to, let's say, link building, which at the time was quite popular, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think technical SEO has gone through various ebbs and flows over time in popularity. A long time ago, it was popular just in terms of getting websites working, and I think in the last several years, it's gone through maybe a little bit of a renaissance in popularity with more people specializing in it. Things like JavaScript SEO, the more detail we have with crawling and indexing data from Google. All these kinds of things, I think, have led to more of an interest then. The reason I specialize in on-site SEO. So I call myself an SEO and content design consultant. It's kind of quite broad, but I specialize in on-site SEO. So the technical side and helping people produce the right kind of content for the right kind of audience that helps them, that search engines love, that their audience loves, win-win situation. And the reason I specialize in that is partly because I am not set up to do link building. I've worked at various agencies, including Screaming Frog and other places that have done link building, and they have whole teams set up for link building. Content marketing specialists in that kind of SEO content marketing style, teams of actual PRs, people who have PR degrees and so on, who are going out there, building relationships, know how to get websites and brands in front of people. As an independent SEO, I work for myself and it's just me in the business. I'm not set up to do any of that kind of work. I don't have the contacts. I don't have the expertise. I'm not that minded in that way, if you will. It's not the way I'm particularly good at helping clients. So there's no point me sort of offering that, because I just simply won't do a good job. If any of my clients need help in that, there are so many good people out there who are fantastic at it that I can recommend, and I'll put them in contact with those people instead. So it's down to specialization of what I think I'm best at helping people with. And sort of the sort of strategy side of SEO, which I think is becoming more and more important, especially again, independent consultant, is what you can deliver really well for people, is a strong point of mine, and the kind of idea of helping build the best possible website, the best possible product to put in front of people and search engines. That's where my skill set seems to lie, where people seem to get the most value from me. So that's why I lean that way.
That's brilliant that you identified that quite early on in your career, because I find that SEOs can be very broad and almost service what's needed, but they don't necessarily focus on what their skill sets are and what they bring to the industry, or specifically the clients that they want to attract. So yeah, that's brilliant that you were able to identify that and hone in on your specialty within SEO itself. So what are the common, if I were to ask you, what are the common issues that you clients come to you with, what would you say?
That's an interesting one. So at the moment, let's take, sort of at the moment, let's say the last couple of years from that, because I've done all kinds of jobs in SEO time, including, bits of link building and so on as well, of course. So I think we all have done some of that. I remember back in the day when I first started, I used to fire up a tool called Scrapebox that used to build links for you and comments and stuff like that automatically. That's one, how old I am, and two, how bad my link building is. But
it worked back in the day. It worked
back in the day.
Yeah.
Oh, that's the terrifying thing, isn't it? It did work back in the day. Today, yes, you asked the question. Let me focus. The people over the last couple of years, what have they mostly been asking me about? Well, it falls into several buckets, I think it's fair to say. One are specific technical challenges they're facing. Often things like migrations, the domain migration, a new theme migration, having to change your URLs because they're moving to a new CMS. Something along those lines. So kind of helping people with specific technical projects, if you will. That's one thing that people commonly ask for. Also, I think one thing I found a lot is sometimes people have done the right thing by trying to do some SEO themselves, along with time with e-commerce brands. They've done some SEO themselves. They've got a tool that has done a crawl automatically for them. It's come up with a bunch of technical SEO errors, and they're like, I don't really know what this means or how to go about fixing it. So can you help us just improve, our health, really, sort of thing, or identify what actually we should be worried about? That's a common thing there. And the other side that I think has really grown in the last 18 to 20 months, and I'd say this is partly due to the more data we have and the fact that Google's really ramped up the content updates, helpful content update, product review update, core updates. This idea of, helpful content, EEAT, etc. is people come to me and they ask me to either just say, I want to improve my traffic, or we know some of our content isn't being indexed, or we know it's not performing well. Can you help us analyze why not? And then also what we should be focusing on. So it's 2 steps, what is working of ours and what isn't, and why is it not working? Why is Google not wanting to index it, etc. And then also moving forward, the kind of more, rather than finding problems, looking ahead, what should we be talking about? Who should we be trying to reach? What should we be trying to build to kind of do things there? So it's becoming, I'm finding that I'm doing a lot more and more content analysis of understanding, Google's not indexing 50 pages out of 100 of this section of your site because it's rubbish. Or they're not liking this so much, or they're indexing, but they're not showing this very often because it's not well optimized. So that kind of content aspect there. And then onto the content design part of that, which is, what should we be building? Who's it trying to appeal to? Who in our business should be building it? Where's the expertise, audience research, a bit of UX, all that kind of thing thrown there? As you know, like SEO is, everything on your website is SEO these days. So you have to take all these different elements and pull them in. So I'm finding a lot of people are talking to me about this kind of side of things. So yeah, one half is technical sort of challenges people are facing, and the other half is help us build better content so we actually rank better and do a better job really with our website.
Awesome. So let's delve into both those parts, starting with technical first. So you've worked at Screaming Frog before, and
Yes.
A lot of people, client side, let's say a head of digital, they would look at tools such as Screaming Frog and say, well, okay, this is a tool that we can manage in-house. We don't have an SEO person in-house, but this is something that we can manage in-house. What would you say to a client-side person who thinks they can just use a tool and gather the information that they seek?
Okay, so I did, absolutely. I worked at Screaming Frog for several years. Still great friends with the guys there. Big shout out to them. It's definitely a tool that a lot of people do use in-house in exactly the kind of manner you describe. I think I always encourage people to try and learn this stuff. I think it's important that if you're running a website as a business, or it's an important part of your business in fashion, and you want to get more traffic, then having that knowledge in-house in some form is what you should be aiming for. Absolutely. But you have to learn that. You have to, do that. And you're either going to spend a lot of time teaching yourself, or you're going to want to work with somebody, whether it's short term or long term, to help you make the most of it and then bring it through. I think the days of being able to say to people, you just run your website, hire us to do SEO, and we'll do the SEO over here, and as though somehow it's completely separate from running the website. They should be long gone. You can't just go, you go and SEO my site. That doesn't make, it doesn't make sense, because you can't, as you know, you can't do SEO for a site if you can't touch the site. If you can't change anything or do anything, it's not a magic extra sprinkling off to the side. So if somebody, runs something like Screaming Frog, or one of the many other excellent SEO tools that allow you to, analyze a site and come up with some recommendations, you need to be able to implement them knowing what the consequences of doing that could be. Because it's very easy, to see something like mucking up some of your crawling or your indexing and things like that very simply. And let's be honest, when you run a tool through a website, it gives you recommendations, but they're based on best practice parameters. But every website is different. Every CMS has its own uniques and quirks. So you have to be aware of when some of those things are applicable, or actually, no, that's how it should work in this situation. It's that nuance that you and I get to have by working on lots of websites with lots of different people, and repeating things and digging in multiple times into different projects. When you're new to this and you're just doing it in-house, it's not the thing you focus on every day. It's just one of the things you're thinking about. It's very hard to build up that understanding and that nuance. And that's where it can be difficult. So if anyone's using these tools and then finding they're coming to the end of it and they're not quite sure, the cool thing about SEO is most of us are self-taught. You can do a lot of cool things and learn this, but you have to be careful. You have to build up gradually, start with the small, build up things you're confident with, and learn and read and be prepared to accept that it is something new. It is something you have to develop the knowledge in. So you have to have that little bit of humble thought and go into it. But I don't think it should put people off. What I would say to people in the situation you described is, if they've got this information and they're not sure what to do with it, or they're kind of guessing a little bit, then if the website's at all valuable, you probably don't want to be guessing. And if you've got a boss, you definitely don't want to be guessing. So speak to somebody, learn some more. The cool thing about the SEO community, of course, is that you can hire plenty of people, but you can also go to conferences. You can also attend webinars. You can also, there's loads of training courses you can buy from experts and so on. So you can start to educate yourself pretty quickly. And you can start to get those fundamentals in place so you can start using those tools. And making the most of the data you're gathering, for sure. Yeah. So, it's a double-edged coin. One, be careful, make sure you don't do anything daft, but also I want to encourage people to go for it, or find someone like you or I, or an agency or whatever, where they can collaborate with somebody and start getting those skills so that in 6 months, 12 months time, they feel really confident and they can start doing more themselves.
Yeah. Yeah, tools are an interesting one. The reason why I ask this question is because I've seen a lot of non-SEOs get into the realm of SEO via tools, which on one hand is a great thing, right? So they would use Screaming Frog, they would use SEMrush, Ahrefs, etc. And I find that to be a double-edged sword in some cases, because something like Screaming Frog, someone knowing how to crawl a site and find issues on it, I think is great. A non-SEO knowing how to do that. But there is this risk that they consider data or tools from data, or data from tools, without applying insights from the information they gather, and they won't necessarily have that SEO knowledge. So for example, you say to a client, canonicals are important for your sites, right? Just in passing. And they take that information, they run a crawl, and they see a page doesn't have canonicals. Let's say 5 pages don't have any canonicals at all. And they say, okay, we're bad in this area for these 5 pages. You look at the 5 pages and they're like, I don't know, privacy policy, terms and condition type of pages, stuff that don't have much value, and that understanding isn't necessarily there. And I'm seeing it with some agencies as well, where they provide this information to clients, and the clients look at this data set and say, oh, we're quite bad at our SEO, we need to do something about it. But there isn't this knowledge in place for the clients to understand. So let's say, going back to a head of SEO, a head of digital, for example. What can they expect from an SEO, or what should they look out from let's say, a report from an SEO, which will show the SEO's edge within the industry and have confidence in the information?
Yeah. This is quite interesting because I'm involved as a member of various kind of SEO communities, as I'm sure you are, and I'm in a couple of freelancer communities like Slack groups and things like that. And in one of them, in the SEO channel, someone was saying, I'm really fed up with clients sort of being given SEO work that they're paying a lot of money for, and essentially it's just a SEMrush report that hasn't even been reskinned or anything. It's just like it's just like the PDF export, and that's it. And there's no nuance, there's no analysis, there's no kind of actual how this applies to you. Exactly as you're saying, it's this idea of getting them out. And while I understand why tools do this, what I find frustrating sometimes is that, not frustrating, I find frustrating on behalf of clients, is they go, oh, I've run this tool, and I'm just going to use SEMrush as an example, not to pick on them at all, but because it's not necessarily negative, but SEMrush has crawled my website and it's given me a health score of 58%. And I'm like, 58% out of what? I mean, how are you measuring that? It's just an arbitrary number of how many tick boxes you've done. There's no scaling of these things like in real life. They have to do something like that to try and help you show when you're improving. It's, basically you've got to take that as a baseline, not as a, oh shoot, it's so terrible. Exactly as you were saying. So when you're dealing with somebody like a head of digital, someone who doesn't deliver this work but knows it's an important channel and they want to improve it, what they should be looking for from an SEO, whether it's conversation like we're having now, or whether it's a report, or whether it's guidance in an email or the documentation, is they should be looking for exactly that guidance. They should be looking for someone to actually turn this data, and my goodness, SEO is full of data. You can get data very, very quickly. You get overwhelmed.
Yeah.
But it's knowing what to do with it. It's the practical application, isn't it? It's doing that. And I think it's this idea of going, okay, you could, to go back to the previous example, you can absolutely do a crawl with SEMrush. You and I would do some tweaking of that crawl using the advanced bits, to only crawl certain bits, to do some bits, maybe to pull in Search Console data, give us extra context, all that good stuff.
Yeah.
And then we're taking that report and it goes, they've given you a score of 58. Don't worry about that. The important thing is the things it's identified in here. And then we've also identified by looking in Search Console and so on. And going, okay, here's what you should do next. You are talking to me because you're worried about X, Y, and Z. And let's take the most basic example. We've been hired just to improve traffic. We just want we want to improve our SEO, get more traffic. And we're starting with an overview of our health of our site, improving that, and then building from there. Okay, great. Fundamental kind of SEO project, if you will. Take that report, 58% score from SEMrush. What does that actually mean? Well, in your case, with my experience of this, and I will explain what some of these things and why they might be a problem, and I'll say you should be looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and here's your next steps. It's taking that data and translating it and turning it into something that you understand, or again, speaking to the higher ups who won't be delivering the work, you're going to be giving them a slightly different synopsis to the members of the team you're speaking to, who you speak with on a daily basis to actually deliver the stuff. So you're giving them that summary of a few slides. You're not giving them the whole report or PDF. You're giving them a few slides which you can go through on a call or in person or even deliver as a document, and you can say, here's the key highlights. Here's what you're seeing. Here's what that means for you in terms of potential performance. Here's what we think will actually happen if we improve these, if we spend the money and the time on improving these bits here. And here's the quick summary of top line group thematic things that we're going to work on, as I'm going to work on with your marketing team to put this in place. That's if I'm speaking, like I say, like a head of digital, sort of higher up kind of person. And if I was then doing the same thing for a marketing team, I might then go into a bit more detail and say, we're going to do 1, we're going to do 2, we're going to do 3, we're going to do 4, again, grouping them by kind of thing and go through there. That's what I think someone higher up should be looking for, is someone who can take that data and turn it into a map of improvements, a series of ideas. Someone can show you why it might be an issue, what improvement would mean for you, what you'll get out of it, and then how we're going to go about it and what level of detail is appropriate.
Yeah, absolutely agree. I find that sometimes we as a community, we focus on data and almost use data as though we're using it with each other. So we understand it, but we don't necessarily translate it to non-SEOs, especially people high up in a business. And I find that this is for both technical and a lot of the times for content as well. Now, you mentioned you focus on content as well. I find that content from an SEO point of view tends to focus on keywords, and keywords tends to be based off of search demand, right? But of course, being a content person, there is a lot more around that. What's your take on let's say traditional keyword research that an SEO would carry out?
So at the moment, keyword research, I think, is still very valuable. I think at the end of the day, understanding what your audience are searching for, understanding the language they use, and understanding how you can then map that in to the customer journeys you have built your website around is an incredibly valuable process. And at the essence kind of becomes the real fundamentals, sort of the skeleton of your SEO project. If you kind of understand, our audience are searching for dresses to buy. Our audience are searching for information on asthma. Our audience are wanting to find a plumber near them because they're having an emergency, and focusing on local. These are journeys that you've built your online presence around to serve. This is your audience. You're serving those things. You're serving those demands, if you will. This is how you make your money, offline or online. So if people are searching for those, knowing how they search, how often they search for those, and what kind of page would, at least Google thinks those kind of people want, because that's what we've got to try and, do the dance around at the end of the day, is incredibly valuable. The days of just, again, you see it happen, unfortunately, too much in the industry. People just kind of put in 3 top level keywords. They just put out a report out of Ahrefs, for example, of here's all the matching keywords around that.
Yeah.
Here's your 1,000 keywords to target. It's like, well, that doesn't make any sense at all. You've got to group keywords by intent. You've got to group keywords by topic. You've got to group keywords by user journey and the things you're doing. And then for me, what I think this comes to life for many clients that I work with is we have this list of keywords. Then we have a big diagram of your site, this kind of idea here. And then we basically plot those keywords into those different sections of the website. I often even do this on a big whiteboard or a Miro board or something. And you actually have this diagram of the website. Here's your different keywords. Here's where that landing page for that, that journey is. People are searching for this keyword topic, 20 variants, which will have the same intent. They are looking to do this. Our page that serves that intent, that purpose is here. And you go on. And I find this valuable, one, because it's, again, the bare bones of SEO, but it also kind of works the other way. It means you start looking at your website and going, does every page on our website have a clear purpose? Is it doing something useful? So in that point of view, yes, I think traditional keyword research is still extremely valuable. Now, year, 2 year, 3 years time, when frankly there's going to be every tool's going to be able to do AI for you and just kind of automatically pull things out, it's going to be one of those processes that's going to become a bit more automated. The thinking behind it and then applying it to your website, that's the kind of thinking that I think will still be valuable.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think the whole approach that SEOs take with keyword research is still very, very much useful. It's fundamental. But I'm seeing that, well, let me backtrack. We as a community, we've almost sort of like trained business leaders to think of SEO in terms of keywords, links from back in the day, and rankings. All right. So that's what they tend to focus on. How are my rankings doing? I think what you just mentioned there, you mentioned a couple of important terms, intent, purpose, and page. I think that is and has always been the focus. I mean, Google ranks pages, they don't rank keywords. And the value of pages is a lot more important than what are the keywords the page is ranking for. Or in fact, the way a lot of business leaders look at it, what is the main keyword this page is ranking for? It's actually better to look at pages and say, okay, what's the value of this page? And I think SEOs are slowly moving into that, but business leaders are still stuck on this approach where they focus on keywords, the main keywords for pages and the rankings of those keywords, where it's very quickly, I think, going to change. And it leads into this sort of like educational process that's always needed with SEO, not just for SEOs, but non-SEOs as well. In fact, maybe more importantly for non-SEOs. Now, I see you do a lot of training, SEO training. How important, in your opinion, is SEO training for non-SEOs?
So for me, that question has a scale, and it's about how much you think about, and within the business you're in charge of SEO, you think about SEO, or it affects what you're doing. So let's give an example here. I work quite regularly with e-commerce brands. So I do something similar, working with people selling on online shops. Now, when it comes to those, you often have a marketing team who you think, SEO is really important because they want to understand, driving traffic to important pages, improving things, doing the things that we do, as I said about, learning and be able to do things themselves, important skills for them to develop, sure. But then you also have a product team who are the ones who are in charge of sourcing products, putting them on the website, running the back-end feeds and so on. You might have a merchandising team who actually are in charge of putting collections together and things like that. You've also probably got an IT team who are actually in charge of making the whole thing work and so on. For SEO to work on that website, all 4 teams of those I've just mentioned there, not to mention the bosses, need to understand SEO. Now, it affects them all in different ways. But what you want is you don't want them all thinking of SEO as this annoying nagging thing that's happening in the background, telling them to improve things all the time. You want it to be that SEO for them is just an opportunity. It's something they understand, so that whenever they're doing their work, it's not something they have to think about. It's already baked into their in-house processes.
Yeah.
We're talking about things about like governance documents and process documents here, but it's this idea that the merchandising team, whenever they put up a new collection, they need to make sure that page is optimized, or they're speaking to the team who will optimize it for them. And how it relates to then the rest of the website, and also what happens when that collection, let's say it's the summer 2023 collection, what happens when they want to remove that page or that collection's finished? What happens to it then? It can't just sit there. Just as a quick example. So for teams like that, for non-SEOs, if they're a part of a website business that survives through organic traffic, at least partly, they need to understand it, at least enough to understand the nuts and bolts of how it works, and also how those processes affect what they do. So, and it goes both ways, how SEO can help them do their job better. If I'm a product team, I might be able to see through search which products are popular right now, so I can buy more of those for my website, and vice versa. If I do a good job with my products, that makes the marketing team's job easier, which means we can rank better, and so on. So it's, it's a relationship, it's reciprocal. Yeah. So I think for teams like that, it's really important to, as an SEO coming in with a business, to identify how many people in the business you need to build those relationships with. That's important. And then with bosses, it's about, again, as you mentioned, kind of alluded to before, a little bit of knowledge can be dangerous. So what you want to do with these people is understand what they need to understand about SEO, what level they want to do, and then you build things for them that helps them do their job really well. So they can understand everything they need to, they can speak to people in their team and have conversations even without you, and you can develop things that way. It can be tricky because I've said this to a couple of people recently, but there's actually no such thing as SEO as a tangible item. I can't go to the shops and pick up some SEO off the shelf. I can't call somebody up and say, "Can I buy 17 gallons of SEO?" I can't do this. So for SEO to work with a website, especially one that a business of any kind of size with multiple teams, you can't do much yourself. You have to rely on the goodwill of everybody else. And also you come in and stick your oar in everybody else's business. I come in and tell the marketing team their copy's not good enough. I come in and tell the IT team that their XML sitemaps are all garbage. I come in and tell the merchandising team they're creating pointless categories and they're cannibalizing each other. You can basically be quite negative because you're coming in and, as I say, sticking your into everyone's business and telling them what they're doing wrong. So what you want to do, if you want to be successful as an SEO, is you want to work with these people, get them all on side so that it starts humming, it becomes this harmonious machine. It's humming, it's generating business, it's doing well within that setup that they have. And often that will be different with every client you work with. There'll be similarities, but you've got to build it each time. And that can be quite hard work, but it's actually one of the more valuable things. So to go back to your original question, how much knowledge do people need? Well, it's however much for them to do their jobs properly and to know and understand it, and for SEO to be a positive in their lives rather than a negative. That's how I would put it.
Okay, so all of this sounds great, right? But it sounds as though this is almost like a learning that one will have in place after their site has had an issue. Now, let's say going back to the head of digital example. So the person now has an SEO in place. They also have had the SEO told them they need more support. So they have a consultant or an agency helping the SEO. And now they have to provide a certain level of training or SEO awareness or evangelism to several departments outside of the SEO. This is a big ask from the business. And the head of digital is looking at this and saying, how am I going to go ahead and actually get this buy-in? Because we don't have an issue on the site yet. My question, let me get to it, is what can a head of digital do to get the business to buy into SEO training before there is an issue within the business from an SEO point of view? So, i.e., they've lost their traffic.
Yeah. So before something goes wrong, how do we start improving things, being positive rather than reacting to a crisis? Yeah. So what you've got to do is you've got to find your kind of fellow evangelists within the business. There's not going to be, it might not be that many, but there's going to be something. So if you're being asked to do this, that means somebody higher up than you thinks it's important. So you look to them for support and their kind of, push on what you're trying to do. It might be that one person in the IT team you've already been speaking to about SEO and they get it and understand it. So you speak to them and say, right, how would we go about with, there's another 5 members of the IT team. How do we go about showing them that what we want to do here is really valuable and make it so that, again, I'm helping them. It's about, for me, doing that. It's getting you want to build this initiative of SEO becoming a really important thing. Well, you're going to get somebody high up to push that through so everyone responds to that. But then maybe just before you start it, you start using SEO to help other people. If you can go to the IT team and say, hey, if we could share the log files, then I can look through there and show you how many 404s Googlebot's hitting. And seeing as our CMS, we pay per page impression, I could reduce our page impression costs by showing you how many pointless pages are being served up, and we can reduce them. And that makes them look good. So let's solve a problem for them. I can go to the product team and say, I've got a list here of all the product pages that are old products that we've still got live, but we haven't had in stock. Let me run through them with you, and we can find all the ones that are never coming back, and we can retire them, and either change the template to show alternatives, or we can redirect them, or whatever it might be, so that focus attention goes back on those. I can help those people out. Maybe the people in the merchandising team, again, I can help them and go, oh, I've found that with our template for our our category pages, our PLPs, our product listing pages, there's several immediate improvements we could make, and I could spend a day just going through and manually making them for you, approve them with me, and those pages suddenly get a bit more traffic, and they're bought into SEO all of a sudden. That's where SEO is really cool, because again, if you're in that kind of business that's relying on this, you can help solve things. So rather than coming in like I'm guilty of doing this, coming in and going, fix this, that's rubbish, you do better. Don't do that. Come in and actually, because we're speaking as an in-house person now, go, okay, I want to get buy-in from as many different departments as possible on this. I need their help to do these things. Let's show them that this can be a positive, and it doesn't have to be this nagging thing of I'll do my job and then SEO it afterwards. It's not like an extra layer of things to do. This is something that actually, if they think, they won't even have to think about it as an extra bit. It's just going to help them do their stuff if we can bake it in, I'll use that expression again, into what they do. Now, that can be tricky, but show them some wins. And then when the higher up person who's hired you and said, I need SEO to improve, gives you the go ahead to then go, right, we are going to have a series of training sessions on SEO and you, one for each team, explaining how I'm going to now work with you more closely to do these things. There might be less resistance. I think basically do a selling job, be a marketer for this channel for your marketing. That's a bit meta, but there we go.
I love it. Absolutely love it. If brands only look at SEO outside of just a channel, there is so much that it can do. Even looking at metrics, for example, SEO metrics, rankings, traffic, conversions. There is a lot more metrics than that. I mean, that's just external metrics, not considering the internal metrics. For example, the implementation time, something I spoke about at some point last year. Implementation is a big area for SEO. Without implementation, there is no wins in the SERPs. So how long does it take to have recommendations implemented? That is something that ideally can be tracked internally. It doesn't have to be an external metric that we see with different tools. It can be something that's looked into in-house. And just expanding one's thought about SEO puts SEO very much focused within the business itself. So it's not just SEO as a channel, it's SEO, like Eli said, it's as a product. Right, you got to start thinking of SEO in terms of what it can do for several things. So this whole idea of SEO taking 6 months to show results is not true. SEO is forever.
SEO it can be quicker, not necessarily in terms of like going, I'm getting these mass ranking improvements, but just a couple of things that you said there, I really agree with. Like, so first of all, if you actually go, well, hang on, let's just pick a really random example. Our main product listing page for coats and jackets, doesn't mention coats and jackets in the title tag or on the H1 properly, or these things like that, or you identify, we've got a coats page but not a jackets page, but we sell coats and jackets, we'll create a jackets page. And that can actually start ranking as extra immediately. Improving coats might take a while, but actually having a page on this other subject you're not targeting at all, creating, hitting new subjects, that can be done relatively quickly. And it's really interesting about, sort of fitting things into how long things take. So you've got to work within the format that already exists. If you're working with a website and they run 4 weekly sprints for releases for the website, then you've got to identify some jobs that can fit in, how much capacity you've got in each sprint that you can work with them to do that, and then fit in your improvements that go within that and go in there. Don't try and come in and go, oh, I've got this massive SEO technical audit I've done, fix all of them now. You've got to go, right, I've identified these things. Which of them are easy fixes? Let's get the first ones into this first sprint, get them ticked off, and you get that momentum. And you, again, fit in with how they work. Don't try and make them work to how you dance to your tune. There's a great SEO blog and newsletter called the SEO Sprint by Adam Gent. That basically talks about exactly that, about making SEO fit into this kind of release model, which most big websites work around. So if that's something that interests anyone listening to this, I do recommend checking it out.
Yeah, I'm gonna check it out myself. Sounds interesting. Just taking a note of
it's
it.
Great.
SEO
it's
Sprint.
great. Adam's great at this stuff. Yeah, the
Awesome.
SEO Sprint. Yeah, it's really cool.
AI generated content. What are your, let's say, general thoughts around AI content?
So, AI content, look, it's here. That's the first thing. This idea of you see some people railing against it. It's here. It's happening. I think if you go onto YouTube now, and if you look at any kind of thing around making money or anything like that, all the people that used to be talking about how to make money on cryptocurrency or NFTs or things like that, and all telling everyone how to make money on creating AI content. It's it's going to be the latest thing. There's going to be reams of crap created, and more crap content than ever before, because lots of people are going to just create this content and assume it's going to rank and assume it's going to do well and so on. But to be honest, and I'm sure you've seen this in plenty in your time, is that I think for the last 5 years at least, there's been reams of crap content created anyway. It might have been human written, but it's been cheaply written. It's been put out there. It's not written by experts. It's very generic. It doesn't actually say anything of interest. And this is why, when you do things now, one of the biggest changes we've seen with perhaps Google's behavior around this stuff is that it used to be that Google would index everything that was technically correct on your website, and it would let the ranking part of the algorithm sort it out. It just wouldn't show the rubbish. It would just only show the good stuff. Yeah. But now you go into Search Console with a site with any kind of weak content. The indexing part of the algorithm, the indexer, is much more judicious. It now only indexes what it thinks is actually worthwhile. They index a lot lower percentage, even on good websites generally. So the actual results of all this AI content is going to be the same. The people who use it well and use it to generate a baseline or to generate ideas, to do really good things, and then human edit it, get experts to come in and do it, and so on, are producing the top level stuff. It's just going to be another tool in their toolkit for them to produce that great content. They might have to scale up a little bit and so on. If you're producing rubbish with it, or just not even rubbish, but just grammatically correct, vaguely on topic stuff, it might not get indexed, and it certainly isn't going to rank because other people are going to do a job. There's very few niches available where great content isn't already being targeted by a certain percentage of people working in that sector. Yeah. So I think it's just going to be, it's a useful tool, it's called, and you can do some good stuff, but it's not going to suddenly mean that AI content is going to dominate more than anything else, because the indexing and ranking haven't changed. It's just how we're producing it has changed. Yeah. Now, of course, there's a lot of people who argue that at the moment Google's not ranking particularly good content all the time anyway. I'm not going to get into that one. That's different. But I think there are uses. Aleda Solis did a really great article just after ChatGPT came out. where she did an article, I think it was like 20 uses of ChatGPT for SEO. And it was actually really good stuff. It was like taking things like a subject and a question within it and generating more questions on the back of it. You know, what are similar questions people ask to this? Or putting in a list of 50 keywords and saying, grouping these by intent, going back to our intent conversation. That wasn't perfect, but it gave you a starting point. So the actual uses of this to start doing smart things in our day-to-day SEO work are high. But again, to your question about SEO content, there's going to be loads of AI content. I'm not necessarily going to like it myself. A lot of it's going to be poor. A lot of it's going to be people being lazy, but they were taking the shortcuts anyway. So, you know, if you're on a website trying to produce good content, you've got to hope Google's going to keep on identifying it, and you've got to keep on doing the good stuff you're doing. But now you might have an extra way of helping you go about it. Sorry, that was a long answer.
That's okay. It's do you think it will replace SEOs? I'm seeing a number of SEOs fear this possibility of it, and I'm also seeing a number of clients start to almost use it as a replacement for what they would ask an SEO to carry out. So do you see it replacing SEOs?
I see it replacing certain SEO jobs. So things that are easily repeatable and that we do a lot of now, certain parts of keyword research and so on, I think are going to be, tools are going to integrate it. Some of the tools I work with are already integrating it and doing things. They're going to replace parts of it, and that's going to speed things up. What it means is that certain SEO jobs aren't going to be needed as much, which means perhaps what you might call lower level or more basic SEO jobs aren't needed as much. Now that could potentially mean you need less of a headcount of SEO. If you had a team of 10 people, could you now need 8 because some of those basic jobs could be done automatically? Maybe. But it should mean that those other 8 people are focusing on the more interesting stuff and actually taking the stuff that AI is generating for us or automating in some way within tools, or whether it's recommendations from a crawling tool, whether it's generating certain bits of content or keyword research, and then actually working out how to apply that to your website and do something fantastic with it. I think it means strategy is going to be more important. If you're an SEO and you want to get to a certain level and you can't actually build a strategy, and by a strategy, I don't just mean a series of tactics. I don't just mean going, we're going to do content marketing, we're going to do technical SEO. No, I mean actually looking at your clients and going what their business goals are and looking at their market and going, right, our strategy is going to be expanding the number of PLPs we have, because at the moment we have them very limited. We don't have any subcategory ones. And then within those, producing a great shopping experience and yada, yada, yada. If you can't build something around that, I think then there might be less SEO jobs for you at some point in the future. And, some parts of SEO will change. SEO is so different now to how it was when I started 14, 15 years ago. It's just going to keep on evolving. Does it mean I'm thinking about the work I deliver? Of course, absolutely. I think it is quite a big change. So it means I'm thinking about, in my field of technical SEO, there'll be certain technical aspects that actually I might be able to sort of automate a lot of stuff for me. Yeah, quite possibly. So does that mean I'm going to then have to make sure I become even better, keep on working hard myself at developing my skills of helping clients in the right way? Yes, it does. It definitely makes me feel like I've got to keep on my toes. But then I'm old anyway, so there's plenty of young whippersnappers in the industry who've made me feel like I've got to be on my toes anyway over the past few years. So, maybe there's no difference there. But yeah, I think it will take some SEO tasks away, but it won't replace SEOs, at least the actual functionality of going, help us understand what to do with our website product as a whole and make it as good as possible so people want to show it. Yeah. I think the more challenging thing will be if Bing does integrate ChatGPT, which they're talking about doing, and then you can go into Bing and you can do a search and get a variety of answers, or you can go in, and I was listening to the Pivot podcast with Kara Swisher and Scott Galloway. It's from the US, but it's really interesting for tech and business markets when they sometimes touch on this stuff. They were saying this idea that if you go into Bing and you type in at the moment, what's the best ski resort in Austria for me to go to? You're going to get 10 blue links, and some of them are going to be good, and some of them, frankly, going to be crap, and some are going to be over-optimized SEO-driven stuff that doesn't actually help you very much. And you're going to have to still dig in and pick the best one for yourself, even if you see a recommended list. If ChatGPT comes into Bing and you type into Bing, what's the best ski resort in Austria for me to go to? And it goes, based on your search history and all the information I found, you should go to this particular lodge.
Yeah.
That's quite different, because we're then competing to actually have the best business, not to have the best website or the best SEO. So then this idea of us, especially on the consulting side, coming in and actually helping people, sort of go, it's not just about the website, it's about having a website that represents the best possible business, which is kind of what some of EEAT stuff is kind of driving you towards anyway. It's kind of pushing you that way to think about that side, isn't it? That then becomes a bit game-changing from the kind of jobs we do. Are we still going to be needed? Yeah, as long as there's websites, you're going to need people to actually advise you on websites. Is it going to be a bit different? Maybe.
I am absolutely looking forward to the next, let's say, 2 to 3 years in SEO, because I think it's going to be the most, it's going to expand SEO like we've never seen before. It's going to take it outside of a very linear approach, because I'm thinking potentially this could be what brings down Google's dominance. I don't think anyone will overtake Google, but I do think their market share will be eaten up by certain either tools like ChatGPT, TikTok, for example, and also what users expect when they perform a search. And because of what they potentially expect, they might decide to search with what they have. So someone on TikTok, for example, might search on TikTok rather than go to Google to search. Someone using ChatGPT might just continuously stick with ChatGPT rather than searching on Google. So it's going to expand the way people search, I think, and it's fascinating. What you just explained right there with the tool potentially going through the 10 links and saying, based on your previous search history, here are the let's say 3 that you should view, rather than checking 5 or 6 of them, or this is the one that you would like. Right, it's doing all of that research for the user, and I think it's going to bring SEOs, the good SEOs, quote unquote good, I should say. It's going to bring them to a level where they're once again focusing on users, because I don't know whether it's because I am in SEO, but every time I search for something, my eyes is just drawn into the optimization of what I'm seeing in the SERPs, right? So I'm seeing the SEO within the SERPs, and sometimes it's quite annoying, because it's just like, oh, I know these folks are just doing this for SEO because an SEO consultant told them to do it. And it's refreshing. I think it's going to be refreshing to see something new.
I think that's a really great shout. I drive my wife mad with kind of like, when she's searching for something and kind of like, oh, that looks like that's going to be crap, because basically she's like, how do you know? I'm like, look, I can just tell the way you've done it. Go to that one down there. Yeah. And I shouldn't do that. But I think, okay, so a couple of things in the back of that I think are really fascinating. One, the idea, maybe it's going to be a thing that someone's going to do basically like the personal search engine kind of app. So you're going to take your phone. You're going to have your phone, and rather than clicking on the Google icon, going to Chrome or Firefox or Safari and typing in and getting search results in the Omnibar, you're going to have this little app, and it's going to be called like, it's going to be like the equivalent of Siri, but it's actually going to be a genuine assistant. And it's going to be this thing where if you build a search history in there, it's doing the machine learning where it kind of like, every time, you can do ChatGPT, you can say, generate some content on this. And then you put in some refinements, and it does it again based on your refinements, and you can make it learn. You can build a model. Well, each of those apps is basically going to be a model on your phone or on your computer that basically every time you use it, it's learning more about you and about how you search and the things you liked and so on. So you can say, show me those ski resorts. Oh no, that one's got too many scary ski. I know nothing about skiing. It's a terrible example, but it's got too many scary ski slopes. Show me ones with more beginner ski slopes. So it's going to be and so it refines its search based on that, and it's going to learn about you. And then so rather than clicking on Google, you're going to click on your personal search and go, where's the best where shall I go for lunch today? Or something really bizarre, like, simple like that. And it's going to go, based on things you like, here. Or you can show me somewhere new to go for lunch today. And it's going to go, okay, I'm in Oxford. So you're in Oxford. You like these restaurants here you went to before. Here's similar ones. And it's going to learn about you. That is like then a personalized search experience. And we've talked about personal search for years. That truly is a personalized search experience. And that'd be, quite remarkable.
You know who does so really well, but it's not search based. If you expand the definition of search, it is, but it's an email not newsletter, but email personalized email is Amazon. So whenever you browse stuff, after a while they say you might be interested in this, or are you still interested in X, Y, Z? And they almost like know what you'll be interested in just before you're interested in it and send you an email. I've noticed they do that, and I think they do so really well. So I'm happy to continue to receive something like that. But imagine something like that for search.
Yeah, that's that. Yeah, sort of personalized search topics you might be interested in.
Yeah,
I think that's interesting you say that. Because I think this idea that the one thing I want to happen with this, that I'd like to see happen more, and I'm interested to hear what you think of this, is I'd like it to be that when it does this stuff, it doesn't narrow down the bandwidth. I think that's the one fear a lot of people have, is that it's going to be the same few companies recommended for everything. Yeah. Whereas in fact, if you're not relying just on pure blue links, the idea that a search for you can truly personalized search could actually bring up more smaller companies or ones you haven't used before and so on. That should be, I think, the hope for this. Yeah,
I agree. The expansion is what will be appealing, I think. If it's shrinking things down, then people lose faith in it, essentially. How are we for time?
Yeah. Oh, probably way over.
We can just end with just one or two more questions. In the start of the year, in 2023. Sorry, let me say that again. It's the start of the year. What are you looking forward to this year?
In search?
Just generally, search, business. Maybe personal.
Oh, generally. Okay.
Whatever comes to mind.
I think whatever comes to mind. Well, I think within SEO and here in the UK, because we're obviously both in the UK, I sort of think I'm looking forward to the fact that I think the community is going to be getting back to more face-to-face stuff. I went to Brighton for both the Brighton SEOs last year, and it was great to see people there. And I've not seen people for a while, but I think more and more events and so on will be going on, which will be good. Not because I'm against Zoom meetings or anything like that. I think I do all my client stuff mostly remotely. But the idea of the community getting back together and discussing, kind of like we're doing now. I've loved having this chat with you today. The idea of being able to do this more and more in person, it's going to be a really good thing. I'm looking forward to seeing what people are going to do as basically the industry gets pushed more and more towards this idea of quality. Again, it's happened a lot the last 2 years. And I think maybe we're kind of reaching that tipping point now where everyone's just kind of like, how do I know that I'm producing something of quality? And I think that will be a good thing. I think, we've touched a little bit about my interest in producing quality websites as products in themselves. I think that's kind of where things need to go. So I'm kind of interested in that. And from a personal point of view, I'm also kind of interested in developing my business and doing things and seeing new ways that I can help people. I was chatting again in some of the communities that I'm involved in, the Digital Marketing Unions one that we were having a great chat about thinking about this year. And I realized that I want to try and find new ways to help people to do things, to actually deliver SEO work in not always just the same old massive document format, but actually helping people in different styles, maybe more bite size, maybe more, we talked before about being practical, didn't we? And sometimes I think the most practical way you can help people is jumping in and helping with a small thing, or breaking things down smaller, or just giving people a bit of inspiration and insight into trying more stuff themselves. That's kind of what I'm looking forward to, from a business point of view.
Awesome. Charlie, it's been brilliant speaking with you. Where can people find you online?
Okay, so you can find me on Twitter. You can find me at PageSauce. That's PageSauce. I'm also on LinkedIn because everyone is. And my website is at chopped.io. My digital consultancy is Chopped Digital. So chopped.io. You can find a simple one-page website there, which speaking of looking forward, I will be building out a new version in the next couple of months. But otherwise, you can get hold of me. And if anyone ever wants to just chat SEO or ask me a question like that, I'm always very, very open to hearing from people.
Brilliant. I'll have those links in the description, Charlie. It's been brilliant speaking with you. There was so much more questions that I thought we could probably go on and on about, but just conscious of your time. But I would love to have you back on and just wax poetics with you.
Oh man, I've absolutely loved it. It's brilliant. Love the podcast. It's great to be on it. If you want to have me back, I will be back. But I absolutely love it.
Awesome. We'll catch up again soon. Thanks, Charlie.
Cheers.
Have a good day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Cheers. Bye now.